The Green Bay Packers have some good interior pass rushers, but they need help stopping the run so they can do what they do best.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google, wherever you get podcasts, you'll find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network. Dane Brugler from The Athletic put out his top 100. I want to get a little feel for some of the players and the names of guys that could be available to Green Bay. I want to talk about Jordan Morgan and some of Brian Gutekunst's comments about where he could play. Are we starting to get a little bit nervous about what's going on there? But let's start with the interior of this Packers defensive line, because I think that is going to be one of the focuses of this offseason. I think there will be two main focuses in terms of player acquisition: corner, defensive tackle. What is remarkable about the Packers season last year is Kobe Wooden played way above what I think reasonable expectations for him were. And Devonte Wyatt is a very good pass rusher. He is someone who can, when he is healthy, and that has been the problem, when he is healthy, has been one of the most disruptive pass rushers in the NFL among guys who have played the last 2 years with, minimum snap threshold. Devonte Wyatt is in the top 10 in pressure rate. He's got a better pressure rate than DeForest Buckner. He's got a better pressure rate than Leonard Williams, who's coming off a terrific season for the Seattle Seahawks as an interior pass rusher. Devonte Wyatt is really good when he's healthy. He needs to be healthy. Carl Brooks, top 10 in pass rush win rate among interior defenders. That's obviously really good. The problem is those guys get worn out because on early downs, they're having to do something that they're just not cut out to do, and that is hold up at the point of attack consistently in the run game. If teams are not constantly having to catch up to play the Packers, it would be nice if your offense could find a little bit of a better rhythm early on, go up by 10 points, 14 points, and then force the other team to pass. That was something that the Packers did really well early in the season, and then when they were playing their best. But they just don't have the beef up front. Their best interior pass rusher is Micah Parsons. He's 245 pounds. And you're going to reduce him inside. You're going to line him up over the center, over the guard. Well, you can't do that on first down the way that you can do it on third down. And so what teams are going to do is they're going to run the ball on early downs against you, and they're going to throw it on first down. So you need to be able to rush the passer with at least one of those guys regularly. But what this team desperately needs is their TJ Slayton, is their Ryan Pickett, it doesn't even have to be a BJ Raji level player. Someone who can eat up blocks, who can defend the run on early downs and keep those guys fresh. One of the reasons why Devonte Wyatt is breaking down is because he's probably playing too many snaps. Now, I think if you take, for example, Micah Parsons' rant about conditioning, maybe it is about Devonte Wyatt too. And these guys you just can't play as many snaps, that their bodies are not in the kind of condition you need them to be. Remember, there were some attitude questions about Wyatt coming out of Georgia. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just saying it's possible that that's part of why his body is breaking down, that he's unable to stay healthy. He's also already an older player. But the production is there from him. Like, they can get good interior push. Carl Brooks has shown over the course of his career, he is an effective interior defender as a pass rusher. Now, he's going into the last year of his contract. You've got Devonte Wyatt, he's got that 5th year option. But these are not potentially both, at least, long-term pieces for this team. That being said, what you care about is today. What you care about is right now. What you care about is 2026. So how do you maximize those guys in 2026? Well, the answer to me is you need a big body. You need TJ Slayton. And there are players, we're going to get to, some of the names here in a little bit, but there are players in this draft. There are players you can sign for an inexpensive amount, or you can go, high-end shopping and try and go sign a DJ Reader, someone who is just going to just wall off guys inside. But Mike McDonald said after the Super Bowl that one of the most effective tools that they had, one of the reasons why they were so good, is they were able to defend the run from two high safety looks. When you don't have to allocate extra bodies to the run game and you can still defend the run, that is how you have an elite defense. And the Packers, 2 years ago in 2024, they played as much cover 2 as anyone else in the league. Now, they played some cover 3. They rolled that safety down. They gave themselves some favorable box numbers, but they were able to play the run from depth. Evan Williams is one of the best safeties in the NFL playing the run from depth. And so you have the secondary defenders to do that. You have linebackers that fly to the ball, especially on outside runs. And the Packers were excellent against outside runs this season because their team speed was spectacular, because guys like Edgerrin Cooper and Micah Parsons and Javon Bullard fly to the football. It is up the middle where this team has consistently been vulnerable. And then that's been true for a number of years now, in part because 2 years ago, Kenny Clark, not himself, dealing with the injury. And TJ Slayton was one of the best run defending defensive tackles in the NFL, led the NFL in ESPN's run stop win rate for interior defenders. Like, that guy is really valuable to have, and they let him walk. The Bengals paid him. I don't think the Packers were going to be in that market. I think you can find guys that can approximate that for you in free agency. And in the draft, if they're not pass rushers, you can't pay a premium for interior defenders. The run stuffing defensive tackles, the nose tackles, the guys that are 315, 320 pounds, that are out there to eat up blocks, take on 2, push the pocket a little bit on early downs. Those guys you can get second, third, fourth round, and later. TJ Slayton was a day 3 pick and was a developmental day 3 pick, but turned into a very useful defender for the Green Bay Packers. If you want somebody who can play for you right away, you might have to use the 52nd pick or the 84th pick to get there. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to draft day and the Packers, we get to pick 52 and we go, we have a trade, and they move down to add picks. If you can get, an extra anything, frankly, you might, if you're Brian Gutekunst, prefer that. I would want the premium guys, but I also understand that I can't talk out of two sides of my mouth when it comes to the draft. The draft is a crapshoot, and the more bites at the apple that you get, the more arrows, or let's say the more rolls of the dice that you get, if we're gonna keep the metaphor here, the more likely you are ultimately to hit on a player who is useful to you. And so I'm looking at 52, I'm looking at 84, I'm looking at 120. I'm going to be absolutely floored if one of those guys is not 310 plus pounds. If Jonathan Gannon is going to commit to playing an odd front, you have to be able to have those guys who can stop the run up front for you, that can keep your linebackers clean. And if you're going to play with all these lighter bodies, if you're going to play a bunch of nickel and you're going to play some more dime, you have to be able to manage that. And these teams, to try and get you out of these too high looks, are getting into heavy personnel. They're getting into 12. They're getting into 21. And they're saying, you figure out how to match up. The Seahawks had Nicky Manwari as a trump card. Devin Witherspoon plays so much bigger than his actual body. And they fly around. But they also have really good interior defenders. And they're able to make all of that work. Byron Murphy, though, is 310. Like, that's a big dude, and he's disruptive. He's a special player. He's a first-round pick for a reason. He was the best interior defender in that rookie class a couple years ago. There were some people that said, hey, if you use a top 5 pick, a top 8 pick on Byron Murphy, I wouldn't bat an eye. That was the kind of level of player that he was. He was seen as a potential premier pass rusher, in addition to being someone who could play the run, in addition to someone who could hold up and shoot gaps in it, as well as take on two when necessary. Packers don't really have a player like that right now. Kenny Clark was that guy for a long time. If they could add even later career Kenny Clark, the version of Kenny Clark that we saw in Dallas even, who's like 75% of prime Kenny Clark. That guy would be a force multiplier for Devontae Wyatt and Carl Brooks because they're playing fewer snaps. They're playing fewer snaps on early downs when they're having to defend the run, and that keeps them fresher when it's time to rush the passer. Now, who are some of these players? Well, Dane Brugler from The Athletic put out his top 100. Let's take a look at where the Packers could be drafting to see the types of players they could be looking at. We'll do that next. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that fit part is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. And we've got a new show coming for you, Locked On Packers on Fridays. We're adding a bonus show, a live show at noon Central Time on Fridays. We're calling it the Friday News Dump, and we're going to be taking your questions, your comments in the live chat, and picking questions from the group chat on our Everydayer Club, as they will be the centerpiece of those episodes. So if you want to help drive the conversation on Locked On Packers, become an everydayer. LockedOnPackers.supercasts.com is the website. You get ad-free Locked On Packers on the major podcast platforms, plus access to the Discord server, the group chat. All right, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, who I think is one of the truly premier guys at this in terms of marrying what he sees on tape, what he hears from scouts and NFL people. The Packers have 52 and 84. I want to focus there specifically. Also, this is a top 100, so we're not getting into 120. We'll look at the bottom of the list just to see if there's someone who may fall. And remember, guys can fall. If you're looking specifically for positions of need for the Green Bay Packers, at 47, Jake Goldday, the linebacker from Cincinnati, that is someone I would not be surprised at 52 if they're like, look, Quay Walker, vaya con Dios, and here's a guy that you can slot in next to Edgerrin Cooper, and you have your linebacker duo for the next couple years. If you want to stop the run with four, it's not just about what's happening up front. You need guys who can then go finish the play. Davison Igbinosun, the corner from Ohio State, checks in at 50 on this list. If you're looking for someone with pedigree, with size, 6'2", 195, a senior, been in a lot of big games at Ohio State, this is a guy who I think you need to keep your eyes on. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going sooner than this, but you just never know in a draft class. And so he checks the boxes in terms of size. We'll see athletically how he tests, but Ohio State, all they do is bring in the best athletes in the country. He is certainly a name that I would have my eye on here. Jadarian Price, the running back from Notre Dame. We've talked about the potential of, bringing in someone with a little bit of juice, 5'11", 210. He's a junior. He absolutely looks the part of a running back for the Packers, and I think would add some juice to this team. He comes in at 51. Now, Anthony Hills Jr., a linebacker from Texas, at 56. Someone 6'3", 238, so big enough. We'll see how he tests. I still think the Packers, even though in the first round they tend to like the premium athletes, and then in the second and third, and after that, they're, a little bit more flexible. I still think they're going to want premium athletes, so it's still going to be about how someone like this tests. But in terms of, he fits exactly the physical profile of the kind of guy that the Packers have liked in the past. Lee Hunter is 100% a name for you to keep an eye on. He comes in at 60 here, 6'4", 320. He's got, I think, 35-inch arms. Not an elite pass rusher by any means, but someone who can absolutely eat up blocks, and the long arms plus the athleticism suggests that there could be potentially more pass rush upside there for him than he currently has. This is a name you're going to see linked with the Packers an absolute metric ton over the next months. And then two more names I want to throw at you here. Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker from Texas Tech, a name that I put in our mock draft Monday the other day at 64. Again, we'll see how he tests. And then Josiah Trotter, the linebacker from Missouri, a redshirt sophomore, 6'2", 237. So physically fits the profile. We'll see how he tests. That is also someone that I would keep in mind here. And then a little bit further down the list, Darrell Jackson Jr. from Florida State, 6'5", 330, an absolute mammoth human being. Something that I think is worth monitoring. I guess I said one more, but how about two more? Kyle Lewis from Pittsburgh was someone who at the Senior Bowl really excelled. He's 6'1", 220, but is considered a linebacker. Could he be a chess piece, a joker, a dime linebacker who can do a lot of different things for you in this defense? I can see him being someone that the Packers with Jonathan Gannon particularly like. And then a name I've mentioned before, Big Citrus, Dominique Orange, 6'4", 325 from Iowa State at 71 here. Now, this would be a little early. You'd hope that he could fall to 84 for you. But this is like, I just named, 10 guys. Exactly the type of players that the Packers need, all of whom could be available in the range where the Packers are picking. All right, now at 84, some of these guys, who could they be looking at? Who could be available in this range? Trayden Stukes from Arizona, 6'2", 200, a corner, redshirt senior, has played some football. Pac-12, that's the Pac-12 pedigree. The Pac-12 does not exist anymore, but it's that part of the country where they traditionally scout extremely well. Not just because they picked Jordan Morgan, but I think someone who fits the size profile. The Packers love these big corners. I wonder if the size profile is going to change at all with a new defensive coordinator and defensive staff. I would frankly doubt it. But it's certainly not out of the question. There are some interior offensive linemen here. I wonder if the Packers want to take a true safety. Jake Slaughter is the 83rd player on the board here, 6'4", 303 from Florida. Jennings Dunker from Iowa, a guard, someone that I think is going to have a lot of Packer fans excited because he's a ginger who loves Culvers. So that's a name to keep an eye on. Keyshawn Elliott, a linebacker from Ohio State. All these guys are like 6'2", 235. Like that's de rigueur in college football now to be that sort of size. And that's kind of it here in that range. So I mentioned all those guys at 52. They may have to reach, someone like Dominique Orange, if he's the 71st player and they're sitting there in the 50s going, what do we do? Now maybe that's the perfect time for a trade down. At the bottom of this list, are there guys that you could go, okay, you really hope this guy falls to the Packers in at 120? Someone like Emmett Johnson from Nebraska could be a name like that. Chris McClellan, the defensive tackle from Missouri, 95th on the board here, 6'3", 315, a senior in the SEC. Trey Zune III from Texas A&M, center, 6'6", 320, very much in that Josh Myers mold in terms of body type. I'm interested to see how they handle the center position. Are they going to sign Sean Ryan to a mini deal? Are they going to restructure Elton Jenkins versus cutting Elton Jenkins? They're going to have some options. I think we'll know a lot more about where they're looking at center by the time we actually get to the draft. Bryce Betcher from Oregon, a linebacker, checks in at 97 here. And then, I don't know that it's the perfect fit, but certainly someone who would, be a welcome addition to this room. Rayshon Benny from Michigan, 6'4", 305, closer in body type to Devontae Wyatt. But another guy that you can put out there that can play is going to be beneficial to you. Like it's still going to do the thing of keeping these guys fresh. Can he create some, a more of a, not a hockey line per se, but a rotation. He was someone who, had to wait his turn behind Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. But he is, I think, someone who, as we move through this process, could be someone that the Packers like. Was a Senior Bowl guy. Packers love Senior Bowl guys. So at the top, there's always going to be more guys, and you look in so 45 through 70. That's where the heart of this draft was for the Packers, with all of those position players. Suddenly a trade down doesn't seem like such a bad idea. If you're sitting there at, 52 and there's 15 guys that you really like, yeah, you think about trading down unless someone is really standing out for you. Can you add a 4th round pick to bolster your special teams, for example? That would be another reason to pick a linebacker in this 2nd, 3rd, 4th range, because even if they're not going to come in right now and play snaps for you, they can be a special teams player for you right away on kick coverage, on punt coverage, on kick return. Those guys, those backup linebackers are always core special teamers for you. They have to be. That's just the nature of special teams and the body types that you need in those positions. So this is the draft to not have a 1st round pick. A lot of receivers early. The Packers, I don't think, are going to be in the market really for a receiver here. So that's the top of this draft. That's where they're strongest. There aren't those blue chip talents that you're like, oh, got to get this guy, Justin Jefferson, no matter what. Like, those guys are not really in this draft class. And so the Packers, I wouldn't be surprised if they looked into the future, looked into their crystal ball and thought, okay, who are we giving up the opportunity to draft by trading away a 1st round pick for Micah Parsons? It's much harder to look into the 2027 draft and foresee what's going to be available to you. But at least in 2026, we kind of knew coming in, this was not going to be a loaded draft. And I would not be surprised at all if that was part of the Packers' calculations in making that Micah Parsons deal. Now, speaking of 1st round picks, is it time to be a little concerned about the way that the Packers are handling Jordan Morgan? Or maybe a lot concerned? We'll talk about it next. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. That's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most. FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. A tough one for the mixed team for the Americans, losing in the final to Sweden. Speed skating races decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different right from the opening faceoff. The ladies team kicking ass and taking names. Let's go. Let's go. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competitions. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Brian Gutekunst was asked about Jordan Morgan, and he said, ideally, he could just be a left tackle. They've always said that they think he's a left tackle, but that it's probably not feasible for him to only train there, that he's going to have to continue to cross-train. Now, add on to this that what Gutekunst also said was he believed that Jordan Morgan had won the left tackle competition in training camp, but that the Packers felt like to get their best 5 on the field, he couldn't play there. And he didn't say the second part specifically, but he basically said injuries and the opportunities essentially made it so that they couldn't do that. And when you think about walking the walk of the best 5, as counterintuitive as that is, it is in keeping with the idea of the best 5. Rasheed Walker not being one of your best 5 just doesn't seem likely given where we were with this team in August. Now, if we add in the fact that they didn't cross-train Anthony Belton for reasons that don't make sense at all, that's part of this here. Like maybe if they just cross-train Anthony Belton, he's ready to roll much sooner and they can move Jordan Morgan to left tackle and let him play left tackle. What happened was they still had the competition with Sean Ryan. They did not feel confident in Sean Ryan at right guard. So Jordan Morgan is there. They're feeling like, okay, we think Jordan Morgan is one of our best 5. If you take Rasheed Walker off the field, is Sean Ryan better than Rasheed Walker? No. right? I mean, I think we can agree for with the struggles that Rasheed Walker had, the answer is no. So Rasheed Walker stays at left tackle. And then if you wanted to make changes, Aaron Banks gets hurt. And now you got to put Jordan Morgan there. And then Zach Tom gets hurt. And there's this cascading effect. But what I struggle with is it's just so much more important that you get the left tackle spot right than the right guard spot. You can deal with some issues at right guard. You can't deal with issues at left tackle. You just can't. The Packers lost a game in the playoffs yet again because of the offensive line, because of decisions that were made. Now, part of the decision was taken out of their hands. But I said in the second half, in real time, I would just play Darian Kennard at right tackle and play Jordan Morgan at left tackle because I can't countenance the way that Rasheed Walker is selling the game. That was how I felt in the moment, that was so bad he couldn't be out there anymore. That's how bad it got. And so that, brings us back to all these conversations we've had about injury luck and needing to be healthy to play your best ball at the right times. But if you think Jordan Morgan is your left tackle, he should just play left tackle. And I understand the theory of get your best five out there. But we've seen Jordan Morgan play guard. He's not a guard. And we've seen Anthony Belton play right guard. And for the issues that they had, Matt LaFleur seemed really genuinely excited about what they were getting from Anthony Belton with the ups and downs of understanding he's a young player, a rookie playing up out of position, basically learning a new position on the fly. As we go into the 2026 offseason, Aaron Banks is going to be the left guard. It seems pretty obvious Zach Tom is going to continue to be the right tackle. We don't know who the center is going to be. If we just take last year's starter, Anthony Belton, as your right guard, that leaves Jordan Morgan to play left tackle. Like, it's not like it was in 2025 where you had either Rasheed Walker or Jordan Morgan. I can't imagine a scenario where Anthony Belton is going to outplay Jordan Morgan at left tackle. It's certainly not impossible. But we've already established, if you're the Packers, that Anthony Belton is a better right guard than Jordan Morgan, despite the fact that Jordan Morgan had already played the position. They would have rather had Anthony Belton at right guard. Now, part of that is Anthony Belton's playing right guard because Jordan Morgan is playing right tackle, but they put Anthony Belton in the lineup because they felt they had to. So what is the scenario that you're guarding against? Like, Jordan Morgan is already cross-trained. Let him just go be the left tackle. Didn't we learn our lesson? Like Brian Gutekunst, didn't you learn the lesson? Matt LaFleur, didn't you learn the lesson? Adam Stenavich, Luke Butkus, didn't you learn the lesson already from last year? Jordan Morgan is a left tackle. Let him go play left tackle. If he won the left tackle starting job last year, who's going to beat him out this year? What are we talking about? It doesn't make any sense. And so sometimes I think the Packers, they galaxy brain themselves with these decisions. I also think it is a good thing for the team to understand you are in constant competition for your job. And there's always, we're not just handing jobs to anyone. You can say Jordan Morgan goes into the season as a left tackle. We'd like for him to be our starting left tackle, but you always have to go out and win the job. That's what Brian Gutekunst could have said. He could have said, look, we think Jordan Morgan can be a really good left tackle in this league. We're going to go into the offseason with that in mind. But ultimately, we're going to put the best five that we, can put on the field. Who knows what's going to happen in free agency? Who knows what's going to happen in the draft? You can still add all the caveats. But say, this is what we think this guy is, and we're going to give him every damn opportunity to succeed because so far, all they've done is jerked him around. It seemed like a feature, not a bug, that they thought he could play everywhere. And so he's playing at right tackle, he's playing at left tackle, playing left guard, playing right guard. And then it turns out that seemed to have disrupted his development because the more you see him at guard, the more you go, that guy's not a guard. And if he's a guard, it's on the left side where he's more comfortable anyway. Now, I think you kind of put some of that to bed when he's playing right tackle. I thought he played pretty well at right tackle generally. Also thought he played really well at left tackle when given the opportunity. So clearly, to me, he's established himself as a tackle. Now, if what you were going to tell me was Maybe you move Zach Tom to left tackle. You're paying him like a premier tackle. Put your best player on the left side. But again, you're jerking Jordan Morgan around in all of this. Well, we're going to let you play left tackle, but we still want to train you at right tackle. And then maybe we'll throw some guard reps in there. He's a young player who you're asking to play all these different spots, and you're asking him to play all these different spots because you want to get him on the field. You think he's really good. But it just seems like you're holding back his development and impeding him from being able to get comfortable anywhere. Let him find a spot by letting him play the spot you want him to play. You want him to play left tackle, let him sink or swim. And if he can't do it, then figure out what to do after that. Because the way that it's gone so far has not worked. And I don't know why you would have any confidence in this team to figure it out, because they've consistently, unfortunately, gotten these things wrong with finding the best places for these guys, especially in the big games, especially in the big moments. But I guess we'll see. More to come here on Locked On Packers this week as we move through the off season. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Packers. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Your latest episodes will be there for you if you are subscribed. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Packers ad-free plus members-only Discord access, the group chat. LockedOnPackers.supercast.com is the website. Follow me on all the social channels that you can possibly follow me on. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national NFL YouTube channel on audio. Make your second listen Locked On NFL. Or we did a great squad show last night, Locked On Packers. That's in your feed. Go listen to that so you can always stay Locked On Packers.